Welcome to episode 21 of Masters of the Forge. I'm Adam, and with me is...
Snorre!
Yes, we're back. We're back and we're on time. Snorre, you work so hard.
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure if we're on time, considering you actually scheduled this recording yesterday, even though you could be there yourself.
Shh. We're on time.
Yes, of course, we're always on time. The Inquisition is never late, or something?
Yes, the Inquisition is never late, nor is it early. It arrives exactly when it means to.
Yeah.
It's been a crazy week for me, Snorre. How about you?
Not so much crazy, but I've managed to fill it with at least some hobby stuff.
Nice.
So I guess I can just fire away and talk about all the completely useless things I've done.
Yeah, I love doing useless stuff.
Yes, in my case, not so much 40k related stuff, but it's been sort of hobby related. Lately, I've been playing a flight simulator called Digital Combat Simulator, and I've been playing it a lot. I really love flying the A-10 aircraft, the ground attack aircraft, and it's not just like about, okay, you push a button to take off, and then you fly around a little bit, and then you try to land everything. This is super well simulated. Every single button in the cockpit is simulated, and physics and everything. So it's quite demanding.
Yeah, I love the A-10 Warthog. From what I understand from listening to what other soldiers say, like hearing the distinct sound of the engines of an A-10 approaching is akin to hearing the bells of the ringing heavenly bells of an angel appearing. To
the enemy, I guess that would be the same as basically hearing the bell toll, and it's like, yes, that's your funeral bell.
Yeah.
It really
cuts tanks in half, Snorre. It cuts them in half with its gun.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it is an impressive aircraft, and I've lost count of how many hours in the last couple of weeks I've been flying this thing, but it's really rewarding, and it gave me an excuse to do something that I've been postponing for way too long. Tim, who's building my Warhound, he's into it, and I used to do it when I was a kid. I was in Oslo last Friday and picked up the last Hellbrute that I needed to make my murder pack. And I also stopped by a couple of other stores for some other hobby supplies. For example, red paint, so I could start painting my Mishima. That's Warzone miniatures.
Yeah.
And I picked up some plastic kits of various stuff. Yeah. I've been flying 2 aircraft in Digital Combat Simulator. One is the UH-1H, which is a helicopter, the classic Huey.
Yeah.
Yes. And the other one is the A-10C.
Yeah.
And I picked up plastic kits of both of those simply because they're gorgeous aircraft, and I love building plastic kits. I just haven't done it in God knows how many years.
Oh man, I may join you after Adepticon. I may join you in that pursuit, except I'll be building spaceships.
Yeah.
But they're expensive. Yeah. Oh my god.
But you can find so many nice kits.
They're expensive. You know what? Back when I look at 40K models, I look at them with rose-tinted goggles of the past, where I'm thinking, wow, a regular model kit wouldn't cost this much. And after having kind of perused the aisle a couple days ago, not so much, actually. It's pretty equivalent, to be honest.
Yes.
Unless you want some crappy snap fit thing.
Yeah, and I don't buy the 1:72 scale stuff. I buy 1:48 or 1:35 because I like them slightly bigger.
I might buy some. There's some 1 to 3,000 starships. 3,000. I think it's 3,000.
Yeah,
that are about 2 to 3 inches long for Federation ships, and I could actually replace my those would actually be a good replacement for my Star Trek Attack Wing models too. So I think I'm
Yeah.
gonna start there. I think that might be good.
Yeah. There's one other model that I picked up, and
Uh-huh.
that's not because I've been driving it or anything in some kind of simulator or other game, but one of our sponsors, Drew, 40K hobbyist, he drove a striker for 8 years while he was in the U.S. Army, and I talked to him, and he's really passionate about this vehicle, and it is an interesting chassis. Quite a few variants actually. And I picked up one of those and I'm building it in his honor because, well, he's a really nice guy and I find the model just amazing. So I picked up a Striker command vehicle for him, sort of.
Oh, cool. That's neat.
Yeah, it's the one I started building and I'm getting back into the whole, oh wow, there's so many pieces.
The Striker's British.
No, it's very American.
Oh, okay.
There's all these small hatches on the vehicle and everything, which are easy to glue in because it's just like a piece of plastic that you push into the other piece of plastic with some glue. Then there's the handles, which are these tiny, tiny, spindly little things that you actually have to clip out, and you pretty much have to use tweezers to hold them, and then you put some glue on, and you stick them in, and then you hold them there for a little while. And you pray to God that at no point during this you actually drop them on the floor because finding them is near impossible. And I dropped several of them on the floor and just, spent a couple of minutes on the floor on all fours, just feeling around like, oh, there it is. Yay, I found it.
I'm looking at pictures of this thing and I can imagine it's like, has it got all this caging and all these aerials, freaking all kinds of fiddly bits? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the cage that you're looking at, I'm assuming, is the horizontal cage thing. It's what they call the bird cage. It's anti-RPG device, and this model doesn't have it. You can buy it as an upgrade kit from third-party suppliers. It would have been nice to have it on there, but I'm not going to go that far yet. But
got it.
I talked to Drew about this because there's quite a bit of brass etch for this kit. And he was like, oh, wow, the details are just amazing with all this brass etch stuff. And he was talking about, because I didn't quite get what this birdcage thing, actually, how it worked. And he explained to me, it's like, wow, that's brilliant. But
what is it like? The rocket gets caught between it and it explodes before it touches the armor or something?
No, well, sometimes it gets caught, but it doesn't explode there.
Oh,
but the whole point is that the rocket goes between those bars. And well, for people listening to this is really bad radio and everything. But go to the internet and look for pictures of a Striker, and you will see that they have like 4 or 5 of these horizontal bars going around the vehicle. The point is that the RPG goes hopefully through those bars and loses the top and bottom third of it roughly. And since an RPG is a shaped charge, the shape has been destroyed, so it doesn't work the way it's supposed to.
So it just kind of explodes in a burst rather than pointing into the tank. That's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. And probably a lot. It looks like this would be a lot cheaper than actual reactive armor. It's a metal cage.
Exactly. It's so much simpler in its functionality, and it does the job apparently. And
nice.
Yeah, Drew had some stories to tell about this, and it's an interesting thing. But yeah. Enough about plastic kits. This is not the plastic kit podcast. This is the 40K podcast.
It would be neat to have some kind of device like that. You could do that for your IG tanks and stuff. Maybe, especially the what's the name of the new combat vehicle?
Sorry, the Torox.
I think that would be a cool upgrade for a Torox. I think that would be neat.
Could be something that could be fun to model. Yeah, like I mentioned also, I've been finally getting started on painting my Mishima. Yes, my Japanese-inspired Warzone Mutant Chronicles faction. Because, every time I go to the store, I always forget to pick up flesh tones and red airbrush paint. Because my Mishima are going to be red with black details.
That's great. Just ignore that entire white idea.
Yeah, white.
Your life will be so much easier.
Yeah, white is not fun. So, since we're talking on a mostly 40k podcast, let's talk about what I've done in 40k. And like I said, I picked up the final Hellbrute for my murder pack. I ordered the Necron Codex and the of Fenris book because one of my friends that I talked to about certain Space Wolfy things for next show, he said that if there's one book you want as a Space Wolf,
Space Wolf.
Yes. If there's one book that you want when you're playing Space Wolves, it's that book. Not so much for the formations, not so much for the Force Org, but there's some interesting Warlord traits in there and some cool relics in there that you really want, apparently. So I'm gonna see. I thought it was just about some cool dudes in power armor, but apparently it's so much more than that. And like I talked about last show, I think Renegades is happening. There's no getting around it. I have a Cadian Armored Fist box, the one with the Chimera and the Cadians. I was going to make zombies of them. That's not going to happen. They are going to be Renegades, along with some other stuff that I'm going to order soon.
Yeah, just do promise me you'll like really think about what you're gonna do, because you have plenty of projects to work on before you get started. I think it would be really cool to see some kind of fun mixed infantry going on in that army. I mean, obviously,
like different renegade companies.
Yeah, like maybe different bits, lots of different like mix matched kind of war gear. Maybe pick up some Armageddon guys, and maybe pick up some catechins, and like mix and match all the bits and everything, and really make it look very distinctive, you know?
That probably won't happen, mostly because I'm probably going to dig into Forge World Renegade stuff to make them look evil and degenerate and all that.
Haha, nice. That'll be cool. So Forge World, okay. That's another direction one could go in, I suppose.
Yeah. It's mostly because I have a couple of renegade bits that I got from a guy, and they are so gorgeous. I have to get more of them.
All right, that's cool.
So yeah, that pretty much sums up what I've been doing.
That's cool, buddy. That's cool. I've been super busy this past fortnight, I'll tell you. I guess I'll start by talking about the I've been working on the format for the next Golden Sprue Cup tournament. We're kind of just pretty much keep the same format we had before, since everybody, it was unanimously decided that people loved it. So we're just going to keep on with the 1,500 point Highlander format, with the looser restrictions on transports. So most of the low powered transports are 0 to 4, like mid powered transports are 0 to 3, and high powered transports like the Wave Serpent are 0 to 2. So you can take up to 2 of them.
You have that restriction on Land Raiders also?
Land Raiders are still only one at a one. You can only take one Land Raider. Now the reason for that is I really think that dedicated transports are very much like troops in that they are integral to the structure of an army. I think it makes it really hard to build lists without a way of moving models across the table. Without it, you see a lot of deep striking armies and a lot of bike armies, because people need that mobility. So I decided to go with that. In the last one, like, under 100 points, they were unlimited, and I thought, well, that's kind of silly. That was very not in the spirit of Highlander, so I kind of scaled it back a little bit for this tournament. And I spoke with Reese, and he agreed to make it part of the independent tournament circuit, the ITC, which I hope will draw a bunch of people from the East Coast who want to get a game in to improve their standings. If you don't know what it is and are interested, go ahead and go to the Frontline Gaming website. I've also been working on a packet for my upcoming campaign with Jay Holt, Jason. He's running Bloodraven. He has Bloodravens. It's going to be the raid on Pakeshi 4. I spoke a little bit with Steve to see what world would kind of be best for our little 4-game narrative that we're doing. And it's basically going to be Mad Doc is sending one of his generals to raid this world in search of hidden knowledge about summoning demons to do your bidding.
And what better chapter to come up against than the Bloodravens? They really love their orcs.
Yeah. So one of the things that Jason liked the most about the packet that I came up with was let me read you a quote from Scenario 4. With as much information transmitted to the transport as possible, the orcs must attempt to leave the planet with a few choice relics they've found. Unfortunately, they've come up against some stiff resistance from the Bloodravens, who are furious that the orcs would not only have stolen information from the Imperium, but have done so before they had the opportunity to do so. So it's gonna be a super fluffy, super fun 4-game narrative that we're gonna play. I hope starting before Adepticon, but maybe not. We'll probably do a whole episode on this campaign because I actually legitimately went through and made a really detailed packet, so we could actually release that as a piece of content.
Yeah, nice. And I really like that you actually propagate the whole urban legend of the Bloodravens being the magpies of the Space Marines.
Yeah, it's fun.
I'm not sure if it's really correct to put them in that box, but it's fun.
Jason likes that rumor, so I'm kind of running with it because he enjoys that kind of part of it. So I don't mind propagating the negative stereotype. I've been working on the Dark Heresy game I'm going to be doing for Adepticon. It seems like where all the people that are running a game are going to try to link their games together somehow. So I've been trying to weave the narrative in with their games. So everybody's running a different game. Someone's running Rogue Trader, someone's running Death Watch. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. I'm just in the middle of writing it, but I'm gonna do the more heavy writing maybe just before the next episode is released. So we'll talk about it then. I've also been last night, man, I was up till about 4 a.m. working on this commission and doing a few other things for the show. And it's right now it's 8:38, so working on those level 3 Legion of the Damned, and also doing some touch-ups on the 3 vehicles that go with it, the level 1 vehicles that go with it. And I am spent. I am absolutely spent, but I think they're some of the best models I've ever done.
I've seen the pictures pop up every now and then, and yes, you're onto something. They are definitely gorgeous.
Yeah, I'm really happy with them, and I'm pretty sure I should have all the pictures posted by the time this episode releases. I have to wait for the folks over at Frontline to get back to me and say that they're ready to go. I'm sure there will be some notes though, considering I was painting until 3:30 in the morning. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's gonna be something I have to fix, but for now I'm gonna claim victory on that project. And I guess I dragged out the Titans and all the materials for them, and they're sitting on my dining room table, waiting for me to start back up on them. And I'm gonna start back up on them on Tuesday. Today is gonna be a Wendy day because she really deserves it.
It is definitely important to take care of your loved ones every now and then.
Yes, very true, especially when you've been so busy. Now, she's not complaining though. She's not complaining especially because I don't know. This might be a little too much personal information, but our tax return this year wasn't so great because we refinanced our house and we're not paying hardly any interest on it, so we didn't get a very good tax return. So all the money that I got from working on these last two projects is going towards Adepticon. Otherwise, we might have been putting it on a credit card, which would be unfortunate. So, yay, thank you to Frontline Gaming for paying for Adepticon.
The future then, Titans.
Yes, the future, the Titans, and then the Necrons. I pulled out all my Necrons and took a picture of them. Very, very excited now to be building my Necron Snorri. I picked up after we went to the service for Wendy's grandmother yesterday. We were swinging by the game store and I decided to pick up my Necron Codex, and I think that this codex is the way the codexes need to be from now on. And I'm not going to do like a codex review right now. I'm not going to talk about the contents, all right? But I feel like I need to talk about the layout right now because it is, I think, exactly what everyone is looking for out of a codex.
Nice.
Yeah.
I can't wait for it to arrive.
Oh, dude, it is crazy. Like it's kind of this wonderful mix of an old 5th edition codex and one of the modern 7th edition codices. We've got remember, you know how the individual like unit entries with the fluff were gone from orcs and from space wolves and all them?
Yes,
they're back.
We actually talked about this yesterday when I had Anish over for a game. Oh, I forgot to talk about my game. Let's do that later.
Yes, yeah, we'll definitely talk about that later. Because I hear that it was quite a big swing in American style game there, Snorri. But yeah, like all the units have individual entries in the codex, and they have like pictures of how to do the markings, like the unit markings for each one for your painting and stuff, and where to put the decal, like showing where the decals go and how to kind of arrange the decals. And it's cool, like it shows you how to like it gives you the idea to take some of the Necron writing decals and cut them into pieces and rearrange them when you slide them onto the model, which it never occurred to me to do that.
Well, it's helpful.
Yeah, and all the fluff.
Speaking of the big things with decals on them, I saw a nice picture on Facebook of a guy who's making a Gorka Morkanaut thing out of a monolith with a lot of DACA.
Oh, I'm sure it has a preponderance of DACA in it.
Speaking of things with way too much DACA on it, did you see the joke picture of the Forge World Dreadnought thing that came out? The one with the big rocket launcher and the big guns on the side?
Oh
And
yeah.
someone just photoshopped the picture so that there's like 16 guns on each arm and
Yeah.
something like 20 missile launchers on the
The
back.
the overcompensator pattern dreadnought.
Yes.
Yo, no, I
Anyways,
like that model. I love BattleTech. So I've loved BattleTech for like House Lao Raven was the first miniature I ever painted. So I love BattleTech. So that model to me is super BattleTechy, and I love it. But yeah, I just wanted like this codex is awesome. It's like not only a blast from a past, but also like very modern. And I hope that all the rest of the codices are laid out like this one was. I'm very excited to start using it. I'm not going to buy. I'm going to print. I'm gonna print out the Mephirit Dynasty stuff I'm going to use and just stick it in the back of my book because I'm not paying another $50. What else? Oh, the Independent Characters Hobby Progress Challenge for 2015 has started. If anybody wants to get in on that, we're gonna be running the February commitments until the 15th at 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're gonna be kind of strict about entries this year because we're gonna actually like lock the thread when the time comes. So basically, even though the sad news of the IC's closing up shop has occurred, the Independent Characters Hobby Progress Challenge will continue with Adon and myself kind of running things on the forums. So go ahead and get signed up, everyone. We're going to be mentioning it quite a bit on the show and kind of supporting that awesome pillar of the community that really gets people involved with each other's hobby progress and really fuels a lot of creative uh, kinetic energy, you know. So I've been playing a few games. I've been playing a lot of Combat Patrol at the store still, and I'm just enjoying getting together with multiple people and playing games with them. Really, that's just using that little orc summoning list and just playing one person after another. I've been kind of not playing a lot in the past couple months, so it's nice to just speed date those 400-point games over and over again until, you know. So it's nice. It's been nice. But that's been my couple of weeks, Snorri. Now, how about that game you were playing?
yes. I since there wasn't any podcast recording yesterday, I invited my friend Anders over to play a little bit. And we sat down and I had still not cleared the gaming table of my models, so there was a bunch of models on the table. And I decided to, I'm not going to move all those things or just like rejigger my list or anything. I'm just going to take the stuff on the table and, why the hell not? Let's make this a 2,500 point game. And that's completely not me. And I never suggest big lists like this. So that was kind of weird. And we cooked up 2,500 point lists, and I got to include a lot of fun stuff. We rolled for a scouring mission in Hammer and Anvil deployment type.
Oh, wow. So yeah, you have lots of objectives in the deep backfield that you have to run for. That's interesting.
Yeah. It turned out to be, a rather sort of boring game in many ways because Anders, he decided to take all his bikes and try out what it is to play a White Scars list with Khan on it.
Khan!
Yes, Khan. And I played my Death Guard as usual. I lined up my 3 rhinos right on the edge of the deployment zone in the middle, And Alnush deployed everything on his deployment zone border. And then, because it's White Scars, he can scout move his Land Raider 6 inches forward. Then he disembarks 6 inches forward. And on turn 1, because he had first turn, 10 Terminators plow into those 3 Rhinos, explode 1, destroy the other 2.
That is awesome. I am so glad he cheated you real bad, because you deserve it.
Thank you.
No, you can't assault on turn 1 if you scout.
Huh. Well,
yeah, so you can feel good. You can feel good about that loss.
Well, I demolished his Terminators. Well,
nice.
Because
well, they had it coming to him for being cheating Cheatersons.
Turns out 10 Terminators against 27 Plague Marines.
Yeah.
Not so much. There was actually a librarian among those. And I think it took like almost 6 rounds of close combat before we actually finally managed to kill each other. But in the end, I lost 6 points to 1 on objectives. So I was in the position where it was actually possible for me to wipe a large amount of his forces off the table, because he had lost a lot of bikes and a lot of every single Terminator. He had a Land Raider Redeemer, a Vindicator, a couple of Space Marines here and there, and I think pretty much Khan and 1 guy from a command squad left on the table. And I had something like 15, 20 Plague Marines. I still had Typhus and the Terminator. Typhus was actually Typhus and the Terminators. That's 80s rock band. That definitely should happen.
Yep.
They were rocking the table. I deep struck them and into the backfield, and they just started hammering into things and destroyed stuff. It was glorious.
It's, even so, since he only killed rhinos, to be honest, it was more to your advantage that he did that than his own. So it's not too bad.
He was pretty sure he wasn't making a good decision when he multi-assaulted all 3 rhinos.
Right.
But
he did tie up like all of your Plague Marines who should have been scoring objectives. So it did work to his advantage, but those Terminators did nothing else for the rest of the game. So it sounds like you had a fun time. Yeah. I love seeing Terminators on the field. Terminators are so cool.
I actually forgot a couple of things. Lesson 1, don't bring a single Hellbrute. He didn't get to move. He just died in place, and nothing happened. I also did put 3 Obliterators on the table. Those guys definitely did their job.
Yeah. Obliterators are. I still hold that Obliterators are one of the best units in the game. Period.
Yeah. They took out a squad of bikes, Space Marines on bikes, not scout bikes. Mm-hmm. They just ran up to them, punched them in the face, and the bikes just were taken off the table. Then they move up and shoot a Rhino full of Space Marines. The Rhino explodes. The Space Marines hop out, and the Space Marines died too. There was 1 guy left of that squad before when the game was over. That was they were just wrecking house. So I like Obliterators.
They're so hardcore, man. The fact that they're so tactically flexible, right? They can come in. My orcs hate them so much.
Yeah, I really love the whole. I used multi-melta and melta all the time, simply because it just took out people left and right.
Right. Yeah. For my orcs, especially like back in 5th and 6th edition, like my buddy Pat, he deep strikes with 0, and I mean 0 fear. He deep struck his guys right behind my battle wagons, melted them with 1 unit, and then put a heavy flamer down with the other unit, just evaporating orcs with his Obliterators. They're just such a great unit. They handle almost everything. You got twin link plasma guns, right? So you can even like point those at flyers and reasonably expect something to happen. So they're really cool.
Yeah, I love them. So I think that rounds it up.
Yeah, that about rounds it up. We also had we do keep getting emails from listeners now, which is really good. Really pleased about that. Folks are trying to get involved and trying to involve themselves in the conversation, which is great. Not only are we getting good feedback on what we are doing, but we're getting questions. And I think we fielded one a couple episodes ago. And we're going to talk about one right now. The idea was to do a segment for this in this episode, do like a mini segment. But why don't you read the email, Snorre?
We're just going to read the question, and we're going to make something out of this at a later point. Hello, Mr. Loopy. First, I would like to thank you for continuing the Hobby Progress Challenge. I wasn't able to get into it last year, but I have really been looking forward to entering it this year. I would also like to say I'm a huge fan of Masters of the Forge, and I think it's a fantastic podcast. Thank you. I will now remove my lips from your backside and ask my question. I unfortunately don't get to play 40k often, and so even though I'm up on the fluff, I'm not too knowledgeable when it comes to units and rules for races other than Tau. Good man. I've always been really interested in rogue traders and have been interested in bringing them to the table. Recently, I made an orc rogue trader who isn't actually an orc. Well, he's half orc, half human mentally, but he looks like an orc. And it's a crazy story. We're going to put a link to the blog post where he talks about that on our blog.
It is a crazy story, too. It's cool.
So, the issue I've been having is trying to come up with rules for this guy and his crew that will be fair and balanced. I don't want to beat face with him, but I also don't want him to be useless. But most important is that I would like to be able to bring him to the table and not have my opponent give me the stink eye when they see my rules for him. Any help you can give me would be great, even if it's just to point me towards a unit from another codex that you think would work. We're probably going to do slightly more than that. I really only know the Tau book, and since they have no psychers, I couldn't really come up with anything from that book that I thought worked. Thanks a bunch, Loopy.
Yeah, thanks for the email there, Verde Marina, which I guess is like sea blue. His name is Sea Blue. He likes sea blue.
Aquamarina?
Verde Marina. So that's blue. Verde means blue, right? And Marina is ocean.
Verde is green.
Oh, sea green. Oh, okay. Well, that makes more sense then. His name means sea green. That's cool. At first, I was just going to give some suggestions on just say, all right, so I would do this counts as Astra Militarum, ally, and use Slate with Strachan for the orc because I'm good at being awesome in close, not being as bad as a regular guardsman. But I think this deserves a lot more than that. I think that Snorri made the comment that this is almost like a many faces of the Astra Militarum segment for rogue traders, and rogue traders is something I'm definitely interested in. Rogue traders is definitely something that we should cover. They're very interesting characters, and they can spawn a lot of great ideas for armies. So I think we're going to put this in the can for a little while, and I think we're going to do, it might be episode 23, but don't quote me on that one. So, thank you, Verde Marina. Look forward to us doing this as a full segment in that episode.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Are you looking for a good hobby blog? Are you in need of a tutorial? Maybe you just want some inspiration to help you get started. Well, look no further than the 40k Hobbyist. Drew is a 40k hobby veteran with more than a decade of GW hobby experience under his belt. Follow one man's journey through the hobby as he dabbles in new experiences such as Forge World Titans, building terrain tables, starting new Space Marine chapters, and much, much more. Stop in for modeling tips, tutorials, bits theory discussions, and just to see some darn cool models. If you have any questions, you can always email him, leave a comment on his blog, or reach him through Facebook. He's always willing to do whatever he can to help expand the hobby and make you feel the best painter that you can be. Stop in and check out the 40K Hobbyist at 40khobbyist.blogspot.com. That's 40khobbyist.blogspot.com, or find him on Facebook.
So we left off on Battle of the Fang at the Space Wolves retreating back into the Fang, and Ironhelm's forces laying waste to the city at Gangava.
Yes, we did.
Now, there's someone we haven't talked about in a long time.
Yeah, we kind of skipped over him.
Yeah, Mr. Blackwing.
Yep. Having his ship just be basically shot to smithereens, it's holding together on goodwill and old habit at this point. There's fires all over the ship, and he's pushing it so hard that under normal circumstances, it would be pushing it. Now the ship is basically falling apart around him, and he's still pushing it just as hard because he knows he has to get to Gangava Prime and warn the others, or else everything is lost. So, if he dies, then so be it. But at least he's going to give it his best.
Yeah. No, and the shipmaster is basically begging him to stop the ship, vent the atmosphere, to stop the fires, and do some repairs. And he's not having any of it. And it's not like you can open up the airlocks and turn off the Gellar field in the warp, or everybody dies. Yeah. Anyways, so
the whole operation basically means he has to come out of the warp, vent the ship, go back into the warp, but he's not even sure if he can get back into the warp if he exits.
No, yeah, the ship is that damaged.
Yeah, so he has no other choice really. He just pedal to the metal and goes for it.
Right. Unfortunately for him, they have some stowaways.
Yes, because just before they wove their way through the debris and managed to get into the warp as they left Fenris, a sorcerer and a couple of rubricae kind of just teleported onto his ship.
Yeah.
In the last second.
Fortunately for him, though, only one rubricae survives. The rest are either embedded in a wall or several teleported over, but only one lived.
This was sort of a desperate gamble move. They just wanted to make sure he didn't reach his destination, so someone just took a chance and take a chance on me, haha. Yeah, someone just took a chance and jumps over to see if they can stop him, and in a way, they actually succeed.
Yeah, the sorcerer manages to take control several of the shipmates on board using some weird eyeball replacement surgery nonsense to be his eyes and ears. And these people end up being kind of invisible to noticing, I guess, in a weird way. Not like physically invisible, but psychically invisible.
Yeah, and, people just, even if they're in the same room, they just sort of don't notice them.
Right. And this is an interesting spot where we do get to see some of what goes on in the lives of the people on these ships, actually, because the first person we see as readers get transformed is a gentleman going to meet a lady for a romantic tryst behind a bulkhead. And he finds that she's had her eyes melon balled out.
Yeah. She was an unsuccessful attempt at this whole, here, it's time you should see the world with new eyes, literally.
Yeah, and it's cool it is kind of cool though to see that the people who work on these ships aren't necessarily mindless automatons. They have lives and they try to live them as best they can. Well, at least until they get their eyes melon ballered out, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I would also say that it's really natural that this kind of encounter would happen simply because there's quite a few thousand people on this ship.
Yes.
And
need to propagate the species somehow.
Yeah, and also they probably never get off the ship.
No.
They're probably pretty much stuck there. They pretty much live their lives from birth to death on the ship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, the scenario is a Zone Mortalis scenario.
Go fig.
Yeah. It's kind of weird that you have this strange rule set where you have, corridors and small rooms and void battle rules. How can we not use it?
That right? Duh.
Thank you, Forge World.
Yeah, and it's free on their site. We'll put a link to it in the show notes, the actual Zone Mortalis rules. So this mission is called Hide and Seek. The enemy is all around you, but you're really only looking for one individual.
Yes, this is Slay the Warlord.
Yeah, pretty much. So the force is involved. As usual, we have an attacker and a defender. You can play any sized force, but as with the other scenarios, one side has a slight advantage. The attacker actually, in this case, is less. They build with 25% less than the attacker. So if you're playing a 1,000-point game, the attacker has 750 points. This is to represent the fact that they're invading the ship, and the ship has more personnel than the invaders do. It's just that the attacker has kind of taken over the minds of the people on the ship. Obviously, if you're going to try to recreate what happened on this vessel, you can use the IG forces, but in any other case, you might still want to do kind of a same force versus same force to get that feeling, with maybe one unit of a different force kind of added in as an ally. So for the battlefield, we want to do a Zone Mortalis board, but we want to contain as many locked rooms as possible. We want to get the feeling that they're looking through the ship and there's lots of dangers behind every door.
When the ship is on fire, the last thing you want to do is open doors, because you want to contain the fire as much as possible.
That's right.
So there's one special rule that we've made for this scenario, and that is ambush. The attacker may hold units in reserve for ambush, and that player must hold their warlord as an ambusher.
You can hold units, but except the warlord must be.
Ambushing units do not arrive from reserves as normal. Instead, whenever the defender opens the door, you roll a die. On 3 or less, the room is on fire and present a hazard to anyone nearby. The reveal room is considered dangerous terrain, and space within 4 inches of the door suffers from the cold void and poisoned air rules. Place a single plasma fire marker, you can use a 40mm base for example, in the center of the room, and this marker is deadly terrain. On a 4+, the room contains one of the attacker's reserved units, determined randomly. The unit revealed in this way may not be assaulted this turn. So you're opening the door, it's like, boo! And you go, you're kind of hesitant for a slight, very short moment. At the end of turn 5, any doors that were left closed are immediately opened, revealing their contents. After all rooms have been opened, if there are any remaining ambushing units, they immediately arrive from reserve from any valid entrance or exit point as normal.
Yeah, that you could run out of rooms, supposedly. So the game length for this is a little bit longer than a regular game. On turns 1 through 6, the game continues. At the end of game turn 7, the game continues on a 3+. At the end of game turn 8, the game continues on a 4+. And then the game automatically ends at the end of game turn 9. So that's to allow you time to explore the board and open doors and everything like that. The primary objectives for this mission are, the main goal is for both sides to annihilate each other. So kind of mimics the search and destroy mission from the Zone Mortalis supplement. So you score 1 victory point for each killed enemy unit.
There are also some secondary objectives. Somewhat mimicking the sabotage mission, the defender may attempt to extinguish any plasma fire marker. They may do so by removing any 3 of their models onto the marker, and these troopers give their lives to save the ship. When this happens, the marker is removed and all negative effects in that room and the hallway outside are ended. For each plasma fire extinguished, the defender scores 2 victory points. For each plasma fire left burning, the attacker scores 1 victory point.
It's kind of like the exact opposite of sabotage, where sabotage, the attacker is trying to destroy the equipment. Instead, this time, the defender is trying to destroy the thing that's in the room. So that's interesting. And it's just like poor Geordie LaForge in that episode where Deanna Troi is learning how to be the captain. You have to send some folks to their death in order to save the ship for the greater good. So the tertiary objectives, Slay the Warlord in this mission scores 3 victory points straight up. And the victory conditions are obviously the player who wins the most victory points.
Because in the book, what you see is that the Thousand Sun Sorcerer is coming onto the ship simply to destroy it. His life is already forfeit. He knows he's going to die one way or the other. He just hopes he can destroy the ship before it arrives.
Right.
And the Space Wolves, once they find out that there's someone aboard, they want to kick them off the ship to keep the ship flying of just a little longer.
Unfortunately, for a lot of the people on this ship, they don't make it the whole way, but the ship itself does, and anybody who's really important does. During the final confrontation between Blackwing and the Sorcerer, the Sorcerer is about to to win the day, but fortunately, the impatient navigator arrives on the scene and basically crushes the Sorcerer psychically, and they are able to make it the rest of the way to Gangava. Unfortunately, pretty much the moment they drop into real space, the ship disintegrates a little bit at a time. He actually orders all the crew to go to the escape pods, which I thought was interesting.
At that point, I don't really feel that it's a sign of weakness. There's no combat that they're escaping from. They're just, at this point, the ship is lost. There's nothing to do, and we don't need to ram anything. So, you know, take the lifeboats. Let's fight another day.
That's a good point. Like, there's a difference between giving your lives for a cause and just throwing away resources, including your own life. And I think Blackwing decides to stay on the bridge. He actually has nice things to say about his crew, and you know, during the scenes with him, it almost seems like he's contemptuous of them. But at the end of the day, they did their job and they did it well, and that's really what he respects. And
also, he's a space marine, so
right.
All he needs to do is put his helmet on and he's protected against the void.
Right.
And even if he doesn't have his helmet, so what? Mm-hmm. They still can do that. I think it's the Sasan membrane thing that's basically seals them in a wax thing that can keep them alive even in space.
Yeah, so he remains on board as he attempts to get communication through, and the ship just breaks up and explodes. And he's like the plasteel, is it, or whatever? The plexiglass window breaks and shatters, and he gets blown out into space, where he's floating a little bit, and he's like, "Hey, I might live." And then a giant chunk of spaceship flies at him, and that's kind of where they leave it.
Yeah.
So, what happens back at the Fang, Snorri?
Well, inside the Fang, the Thousand Suns are digging the way through all the collapsed stone and everything that was loosened with melta-bombs and all kinds of explosives. And, of course, with the help of the cataphract robots that they have with them. But, you know, booby traps all over the place inside the rubble. Mm-hmm. They lose both people and cataphracts. It's not pretty.
No. But they do make it through, right? Now,
eventually they do.
Yeah. But all the while, it's taking them this time to dig their way through. The Space Wolves and the rest of the Fenrisians are setting up defenses throughout the not only defenses but psychic wards and booby traps throughout the Fang. And all the psychic wards have been re-energized by the Rune Priests, including Stromhjart. There are two main key defenses. Bork's Seal, which is the main choke point into the lower levels with the forges and the resting places and everything like that, as well as at the Fang Thane, which is the other choke point leading to the higher levels where the Space Marines basically live, and both of these points have wide open spaces that but have also this choke point for them, which is a great way to kind of point all your guns at this one entrance and just go daka 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 as people come in.
Yeah.
But the open space is important, so in case they do get through, you can harry from the sides and make it just as deadly as possible to get to the main bulk of the defenders' positions. And some of these positions are really, really impressive, aren't they?
Yeah, there's so many people and guns at this place, and the whole slog trying to get through these choke points takes a long time and massive casualties.
Oh yeah, even when you have freaking 10-year-olds throwing grenades at you.
Yeah.
Get through the freaking place.
Yeah. Even while the Thousand Suns are advancing through the main corridors, there's side tunnels here and there, and some Thousand Suns just bolt down these side tunnels to flank and everything, and that's where you find these young children running around with hand grenades, blowing stuff up and going, ha ha ha, I killed one, and then they're running off again, just to taunt. It's kind of hilarious.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And it's just funny. Like at one point, Raphael, the commander on the ground, he's like, I hate this freaking planet so much.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, there's something about trying to break the will of these people. It just can't be done.
No, it was broken at age 3. You know?
Yeah.
Their will's been broken, or it's not broken. It's just been like kind of like they've already been through so much. That's the whole thing about a death world. It's just they've been through so much already. The hell you're bringing them is nothing compared to the one that they've lived with their entire lives. You know. So anyways, all these defenses and hard points are set up. They're pretty intense. But the enemy does eventually make its way through. And they face a hail of weapons fire in both locations. They lose so many. But there are enough of them where they can just keep the mass of bodies coming to the point where they can come out in waves that are too great for even the massed fire to take down everyone, and the defenders have to start wading in themselves.
At this point, you have Fenrisians and Space Marines in Borex Seal trying to hold off the Thousand Suns, and they're just about to be overrun when suddenly there's just bolter fire and plasma coming in from one of the tunnels, and in waddles. I'm sorry, I can't say walks, but in comes Bjorn the Fell-Handed
plasma
with
cannon,
Greylock,
pow,
and
pow, pow.
all the other dreadnoughts that they've woken up just come pouring out this tunnel, and they just rip everything to pieces. It's such a nice piece of writing right there. I had goosebumps when I read it.
It was a great battle. It was really cool how they well, let's just be honest. The author Chris Wraight really does a great job of getting us into the fight, smelling the smells, seeing what's happening, hearing everything that's going on. I really felt like I was there, especially from the viewpoint of Freya, who's just her respect for the Space Wolves, or the Sky Warriors as she calls them, is increasing every day of this fight. She's actually where she saw the Blood Claws as bullies before, she understands now that was not their natural state. Dealing with her on a social level, this combat is their natural state, and she gets the feeling that they're treating her just like any other battle brother. Like all the divisions between them are gone, and they're just all battle brothers. She expected them to treat her and the rest of the human infantry as, rightly so, as she puts it, as cannon fodder, but they don't. If they see a human bulwark in trouble, she sees a Grey Hunter give his life to kill 3,000 Suns warriors in order to give her people time to fall back. Like, her respect is mirrored by her father beginning to lose faith. Her faith is growing exponentially throughout this fight, and it's incredible.
Yeah, and I would have to say that it's not just she discovers that these guys aren't so bad after all. The fight she puts up, earns her so much respect in the eyes of these Space Wolves. I'm pretty sure that's part of it. Because,
that's probably true.
Yeah, they wouldn't respect you unless you earned it.
No,
but
that's a fact.
She definitely earns her respect.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So the fighting lasts for a really long time, and they start coming in and like the Fenrisians start coming and going in shifts. And the author really makes a note here about how nobody really pays attention to who's coming and going because everyone is trusted to hold their post for the amount of time that they're required to.
Yeah.
And Fenrisians are actually need sometimes in especially in Morik's this is Freya's father. In Morik's case, they have to be ordered to leave the front and get some rest and get recharged. But at one point, Wormblade finally confronts Morik and says, "We need to talk," because I know he knows what Morik saw in his laboratory. So he brings him up. It's his quarters, I think, and he says, I'm trying to decide if I'm going to kill you or not for the knowledge that you have." And Morik he oddly feels okay with it. He's accepted the fact that he's probably going to die here.
Yeah, but at the same time, he feels that probably it's better for him to die simply because what he has learned when he was up in the apothecary was it just shook his faith in the Space Marines so bad that he doesn't really know if he can exist anymore with that knowledge. It's like it's such a personal problem for him, what he now knows, that he's at the point. It just how can I live knowing what I know?
Right. Yeah. So unfortunately for him, Wormblade decides that his punishment shall be to even greater knowledge of what's going on. And he listens in horror as Wormblade explains everything about the heresy and about how the Space Marines came to be and about the Astartes project. And he talks about how each chapter has their own kind of specializations and their own flaws, and how the Space Wolves have a special flaw called the Canis Helix, which has the possibility of driving them insane.
Yeah, Mark of the Wolfen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's really interesting how this is considered a great punishment to him. And I really thought it was interesting how Chris Wraight actually switched from this in the middle of this discussion. He switches to the back to the battle, right?
Yeah. As we're talking about the flaws, or the good things and the bad things about the whole Canis Helix, Hellfist finally falls completely to the Curse of the Wolfen.
That's right.
He just goes nuts.
Yeah, Hellfist is one of the pair of blood claws we've been following throughout the book. Hellfist and Red Pelt. And Hellfist is the guy with the power fist.
Yeah.
But he's
probably not the guy you really want to go berserk.
No. And he just starts, it's insane. The guy, his speed, his endurance, his strength all increase, and he just wades into the enemy, killing and smashing and destroying. And his brother tries to call him back, and as he's about to try to save him, he gets one last communique telling him, "Stay back. I can't help myself." And I don't think it's not that he means he can't help him stop himself from killing the enemy. He knows he means he wouldn't be able to stop himself from killing his friend. And he's finally lost.
But what a way to go.
Oh yeah, he whoops. So we've come up with some rules that I know people have made rules for in the past, but we have our own take.
Yep. The Wolfen. They're
Wolfen. Can we pronounce it with a V sound?
You mean like Wolfen?
Wolfen.
Wolfen. Yes. The Wolfen is an elite Space Marine, and his weapon skill is 5. He has no ballistic skill, strength 5, toughness 5, 1 wound, 5 initiative, 2 attacks, leadership 8, and a 6+ save.
Yeah, it's kind of this character is almost a cross between like a Thunderwolf and just a Bloodclaw, really.
It's a unit that is available to Space Wolves, and they cost 70 points. The unit composition is 5 Wolfen, and they cost 70 points. Their unit type is Beast.
Yes. They really don't have any war gear, but they have a lot of special rules. Acute Senses, Counterattack, Fleet, Feel No Pain, Furious Charge, Fearless. Now there's 2 special rules that we've come up with for these guys. One is Tooth and Claw. All of a Wolfen's attacks have the Rending special rule. They also have the Wolf Within. A Wolfen in the presence of a Space Wolf Dreadnought or independent character of any kind may act normally. If neither of these types of unit are on the table, then the Wolfen become crazed and always attack the nearest valid unit, friend or foe. The Space Wolf player controlling the crazed Wolfen may choose to treat them as either friendly or enemy models at their convenience. So you can engage them in combat with a nearby enemy unit, or you can shoot at them to kill them if you need to.
They have 2 options, which are that they may add up to 15 more Wolfen at 14 points each, and any model may take Cyber Augments for 4 points per model. And the Cyber Augments give them a 4+ armor save.
So what do you think, Snorri? I mean, it's very simplistic, but I think it kind of needs to be with all those special rules.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of options, but I don't know what options I would add, you know?
Yeah, since you're buying them as a unit, then I guess that it needs to be like this. I was kind of hoping that Wolfen could be something that you could turn into, but that becomes a really difficult thing to work with.
Yeah, especially like if you look at the Imperial Armor 11, I did kind of use the rules for the independent character there that turns into a Wolfen. I use him as a basis for kind of figuring out what the stats should be. But you know, we could actually do that if we wanted to for some freshly turned Wolfen. If you have like a unit on the battlefield that's just kind of lost it, or if you have a model on the battlefield that's kind of you want to represent as having lost it, that it shouldn't be hard to reverse engineer his stats to create a Wolfen in your unit. So it's probably about time we switch back to Temek and the Thousand Suns.
Yeah, because up in space, in the Thousand Suns fleet above Fenris, Temek asks Magnus if he can join the battle on the ground, and Magnus declines, saying that Temek has more important things to worry about.
Yeah, he orders him to their astropaths, or the chaos equivalent, are sensing a huge wake in the warp of lots and lots of spaceships heading towards them because, obviously, the message got through. There's actually a cute scene at the end of part 2 where Blackwing is on the operating table of one of the starships. And here's the quote. They're arguing about whether or not they should listen to him. And he goes, "I nearly died to bring you this message, Lord," he drawled, on the edge of consciousness and loquaciousness from the medication. "In itself, that matters not. But the fact you're hesitating over this now is massively pissing me off." Yep. There are 1,000 suns on Fenris, a whole bloody legion of them.
Yep.
He's so funny.
Yep, that's
but like I said, a little too cool for school, but who cares?
Yeah, well, he's a space wolf. I think we can write most of the stuff off as he's a space wolf.
Yeah. So yeah, Magnus says it once you see anybody coming out of the warp, get out of here. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
I don't think his plan is to come back on the ship.
No, but I don't think he needs to either.
No.
Down on Fenris, on the other hand, the sorcerers are plowing through the Fang, destroying the wards and gaining power as they go, because the wards are there to keep the warp away. So you can't really use the psychic powers of the warp inside the Fang. So
it's much reduced.
Yeah, that's sort of an argument to the whole, well, the weird is not the warp things, because the weird definitely works fine in the inside the Fang, but maybe they just have blocked certain parts of the warp powers instead of just everything.
They've attuned it to themselves, and as we discussed before, any space wolf that spends too much time away from the Fang, kind of or away from Fenris, has this issue with their psychology, right? So, and also we've noticed when the rune priests are on Fenris, their powers are magnified greatly. So I'm wondering if Fenris itself has some kind of ley line-ish effect on the Space Wolf's powers.
Something like a tuning fork?
Yeah, and it might be exactly. Actually, Snorri, that's a really apt description, because they could be at a whole different frequency from anyone else, and it could be that they're just so different. I mean, they are accessing the warp, let's be honest, but at the same time, the powers are slightly different in a lot of ways. So it's an interesting discussion to have.
Yeah. Raphael hates the task he has been given, but the other sorcerers can't handle it. He has to do it himself.
Yeah.
So when enough seals have been broken down in the Fang, Raphael undergoes a transformation into the aspect of Magnus, armor and all.
Yeah, I thought that was weird. I assumed he was like naked, but no, he had Magnus's armor on. I'm like, this is interesting. It's must just be some kind of skin, some kind of psychic skin that Magnus is putting on.
Oh yeah,
it's weird. And Raphael is great. He's basically like, oh, I'm gonna die now. Well, go get him, boss. That's pretty much what he says. Because remember, Raphael, all he cares about is revenge.
Yeah.
So if he has to die to allow his master to come forth and take care of business, then great.
And what does Magnus do? He just rampages through the Fang Thane, killing anything that's close.
He breaks dudes' backs, gushes their brains, like he's gushing people in their armor. Like there's a few Chris Wraight descriptions where like several times Chris Wraight just enjoys talking about how people have blood running in their boots and like gore spilling out their armholes and stuff. Like it's fantastic.
Yeah. When he comes up to Lehman Russ's gigantic statue, he's like, that's a nice big statue of a big angry guy.
Yeah, they cut his likeness quite well. That's what he's thinking that.
Yeah, but I don't like Lehman Russ, so he just grows himself even bigger and just rips the statue to pieces.
Yeah, dashes it on the ground. He actually has this weird moment of lucidity where he kind of feels like either pity or regret. Then he's like, nah, this guy's a jerk. Then he keeps going.
Yeah.
So Morik's back, and they're fighting alongside the Astartes and trying to fight. They're doing this fighting retreat, and they come to a point where the Space Marines need more time to hold a defense higher up, and Morik says, "No, I'll stay, right?" And he looks up at Wormblade, and Wormblade's like, "Yeah, that's exactly what you're gonna do." So the human defenders set up a final defense to give the Space Marines time to go up and set up defenses higher up and past the Fang Thing. Unfortunately, Morik and his men don't last long, and he's killed. Now, here's the only part in the book I did not like. I legitimately thought it was I'm gonna go out and say I think it was stupid for Freya to feel her father die.
Yeah.
And then give up in the middle of the fight. You know what? She's made from sterner stuff. I thought that was I thought it was disrespecting the character that he'd written in a way, and I don't understand why that. I mean, yes, she loved him, but like I thought it was kind of disrespectful of the character to do that. And also this weird psychic link. Like, what, really?
Yeah. That would be my problem with it. The they're not psychics, and yet they still kind of feel each other that strongly with everything else going on around them.
Yeah, it kind of smacks of this thing where people today, people in our world think they can feel the bad things happening to their family when no, that doesn't happen, and it just felt wrong. It was such a blemish on the book. Like, I'm not gonna say it. I mean, I loved this book. I thought it was freaking fantastic. It's just that one blemish really hurt for me, and if anybody can really explain why that happened, if there is something else behind it that maybe we're not catching, I'd love to hear it, because it would make me feel better about what's this kind of pile of poo that is sitting in the middle of my beautiful garden.
Yeah,
but let's move on from that and talk about, actually, Let's have a break. We'll come back and talk about the new scenario that we've written to kind of in an abstract way recreate this battle.
Yeah, and wrap up the rest of the book and call it a night.
Yeah. All right, we'll be right back.
Is life in the hobby? Is life in the hobby? Narrative gaming is so much fun. That's the way it ought to be done. Is life in the hobby? Is live.blogspot.com.
It's time for Switchback, which is the final scenario for this supplement.
Yes. There could have been a last one, but we'll talk about that later, because it would be ridiculous.
Yeah. The attacking force is attempting to take as much ground in the defender's underground complex as possible in a series of dramatic pushes, and they're soon wading in the blood of the fallen. Mm-hmm. We recommend playing this scenario if you have a lot of time on your hands.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, one thing we didn't talk about is the fact that the attackers are literally wading in the blood and gore of their fallen comrades. Like, there's so many dead Spire Guard in both fight battle locations that, like, they literally are slipping and sliding around on blood.
Yes. The force disposition is as follows. The attacker is blessed with extra forces. Again, they may take 2 2,000-point lists. The second list must contain at least one Lord of War. The defender may only take a single 2,000-point list and may not select a Lord of War. However, they do have the option to buy 1,000 points of fortifications in addition to their 2,000-point list.
Yep, and obviously if you are recreating the Battle of the Fang, that Lord of War is go ahead and go to your Legion books and grab Magnus.
Yeah.
That's really what you're... Actually, I don't think he's available yet, is he?
They haven't made him yet.
Oh, crap. Okay, make a Magnus.
Yeah. 1,000 Suns and Space Wolves. Trust me, I'm pretty sure they will be a Horus Heresy Prospero book at some point. Probably sooner than later.
Such crazy psychic powers. He's going to murderize people. But
it's going to be awesome to see.
You can make a Magnus. Just go ahead and do it. Who cares?
Yeah. And, you can always just represent them with the Lord of Skulls.
Yeah,
or not.
And just, do whatever. Give him some psychic powers. Pfft, he's a BA. So the battlefield is the most confusing part of this entire scenario and is really easy to see if you look at a picture, but really hard to describe. I'm going to give it the old college try here. So essentially it's a 4x6 board like normal. Now imagine that 4x6 board with like about a 4.5 foot long line bisecting it along lengthwise. and it's tilted a little bit. So it's the attacker's board edge and the defender's board edge are actually the same short board edge, except they're separated by a wall. The attacker's board edge is like 18 inches wide, and then the defender's board edge is wider. So in this way, the attacker has to go up the long length of the table, turn around a corner, and go all the way back down the table again. Now, I thought this would be interesting because if you just did it on a 12-foot long table, I think it wouldn't have the same impact, and it wouldn't really represent the Battle of the Fang very much, because you have all these kind of choke points that you're using in wide open areas, but then also these kind of corridors, and not corridors, but wide open spaces that have a lot of right angles to them that you can hide behind. So I kind of thought this would be a great way of representing the actual stair battle.
Yeah, now, I really like the layout of the table, because I'm sorry, people, you'll see it as soon as you look at the picture itself, but the defender starts with a really wide table edge, or board edge, starting board edge, and it just gets more and more narrow the further they get away from their deployment zone. The attacker has the opposite. They start out with a really narrow board edge and get more and more space the further they advance. So for the defender, it gets harder the further they go, but at the same time, it also, if they can push the attacker further back, then the attacker has less and less room to defend from. And if you turn it around, once the attacker gets around the corner of the wall and starts pushing back, the defender actually has a lot of space still to deploy their reserves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and then it, on the attacker's kind of side of the table, they have a very kind of small deployment zone of like 18 inches by 36 inches, where the defender can place their fortifications anywhere else on the table. So you're going to have, I guess, what represents the massive fortifications that the defenders threw up. You can have a bunch of bastions, a bunch of Aegis defense lines, vengeance batteries, all that stuff kind of set up as pillboxes to defend for the defenders to use to protect themselves.
And vengeance batteries inside these hallways, not so far from reality.
No, it's not.
You can really easily find something that crazy inside the Fang.
Yep, and it's just kind of an abstract representation of what they had. They really did have a lot of these crazy gun placements and heavy fortifications. So I hope you have that vision in your mind.
Yeah, if not, download the supplement, please. Mission special rules now. This mission is taking place indoors, so barrage weapons may not be used during the scenario. There simply isn't room to use barrage weapons.
Right.
And you also have superior precision. The attacking forces do not enjoy cover saves from the fortifications, though the fortifications may still block line of sight.
This is kind of represent the fact that it's like a stair and they're going up the entire time.
Deployment. Units may not be held in reserve. The attacker deploys their first list, and when the units from that list have been exhausted, their entire second list arrives from reserve. Bam! It's like... And more phone interruptions.
Sorry.
That's okay. If any models cannot arrive from reserve due to space issues, then they go on into ongoing reserves.
Mm-hmm. So the first turn, the attacker gets to go first. So they get their first shots at the fortifications. They're bursting in through the opening, and they got guns blazing. But the game length is very long. On turns 1 through 10, the game continues. At the end of game turn 11, the game continues on a 3+. At the end of game turn 12, the game continues on a 4+. The game automatically ends at the end of game turn 13. Now, if I would really caution this, I would go ahead and extend it if the attacker's initial force has not been exhausted yet, I'd keep going. Like I said, we haven't really play tested this yet. This is all just imagination at this point. So please play test it and tell us how it goes. Then now we have the primary objectives. What are they trying to accomplish here? So basically what you'll do is you'll divide the table into 2-foot bands along the table edge, and you're basically dividing it into 6 even parts. The attacker scores 3 victory points for each region which contains no defending units. So you're trying to eliminate all defenses along each square. The defender scores 1 victory point for each region which contains a defending unit. Note that buildings held by the defender count as a defending unit. And the defender scores 3 victory points if they still have a unit in the region along their own board edge. So holding the top of the stair, if you still hold that top of the stair, you get 3 victory points. Now the secondary objectives score 1 victory point for each enemy unit destroyed. So it's very likely that the attacker will be holding all these territories, but they also have a disadvantage for victory points. Now I would actually say that the fortifications also count as victory points, so keep that in mind. For the tertiary objectives, First Blood, Linebreaker, and Slay the Warlord are in play. The defender, though, will score 4 victory points for Slay the Warlord instead of 1. I assume that the Lord of War will be your warlord in that situation. And the victory conditions are the player with the most victory points wins the battle. So that'll be a long day of playing Warhammer 40,000 right there.
Yeah, this is a lot like my initial idea of this scenario, yet I think that you turn around some of the problems I had with it and made it more playable, because my initial idea was really to have one long board instead of this slightly smaller board with the U-turn. And also my idea was initially to have just everything on the attacker's side that gets destroyed just goes into ongoing reserve, so that there's always stuff just coming on and on and on.
Yeah.
But that becomes a really static game after a while.
Yeah, I think if the listeners want to, they could actually try that method, and that might be easier to deal with than having 2 entire lists. I was kind of going for like this waves, like they were doing in the actual book. They do entire waves through. But I think your idea is not bad either. So, thanks.
The difference definitely would be that with this solution you have the weaker, more
cannon fodder.
Yeah, cannon foddery units coming in first to kill as much as possible, and then you're saving your more elite units that you don't have that many of until later, when the big boss comes in. Right.
So I guess at this point, when you have Magnus showing up, you're not going to last long, and Magnus is you're certainly able to push through. And down at Boric's Seal, when Magnus shows up, the sorcerers all gain a second wind, and they start pushing forward, and actually gaining ground on the Space Wolves. But they hadn't thought of the ace in the hole, almost literally, as the Wolfen come to join the battle.
Yeah. There's nothing like having some semi-lucid, semi-rabid wolf thingies just come pouring out of the blue.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And
sometimes it's really good to have some secrets buried in the basement.
Yep. This is especially helpful since the wolves at the Space Wolves at Boric's Seal also feel the presence of Magnus, and they kind of rush for the summit to join the battle there and kill Magnus. This is more believable as the at least the psychers in the group should be able to feel the presence of Magnus, the Emmer effing Red. the freaking Crimson King showing up on their planet. You know, that's believable.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So Wormblade, right?
Yeah, Wormblade. He decides that the situation pretty much requires him to leave the defenders in the chamber, and he heads up to his lab to try to save his work just in case. But when he gets there, he's greeted by Magnus, who goes like, haha, you think I'm just gonna let you fix your problems? Guess again. I've destroyed all your equipment and all your research notes. Ha ha.
Yep. Of course, Wormblade pulls his black blade and has at him, and you know, he's not gonna kill Magnus the freaking Red. So
No. He dies really fast and really hard.
Pretty fast, yeah. And you know, when Magnus has his sword in him, he kind of lets him know, hey, by the way, I would have never attacked had you not started this project. This is all your fault.
Yeah. Just to rub it in, yeah, even if it's not true.
Yeah, just to rub it in before he dies. But you know, he can't have the space wolves not having some kind of flaw. Like that would have been really bad for him if the Space Wolves could just start building up their forces even more and starting like this new great kingdom of the Space Wolves that rivals even Ultramar. That would have been around the Eye of Terror. Like that was the goal. The goal was to put an iron boot on the Eye of Terror and secure it. And no, Chaos can't have that. Chaos just can't have that.
I'm thinking a little bit about the whole Unremembered Empire storyline with that second Imperium that the Ultramarines were thinking of setting up, and I'm wondering if Magnus the Red is actually sort of doing something kind of good here by actually preventing the Space Wolves from doing this.
Yeah, you never know how things would have turned out. But I think it would have been. I think it would have been bad. At least it would have been bad for Chaos. Now it probably also would have been bad for the Imperium, but it certainly would have been bad for Chaos, at least in the short term. So, and don't forget, this is M32. This isn't like modern times. This is relatively shortly after the heresy.
Yeah, this is set about 2,000 years after the heresy.
Yeah.
So it's still a long time before the current timeline.
Mm-hmm. So after he gloated, like immediately after he gloated, Greylock and the rest of his guard show up and start whooping ass on Magnus.
And they do actually catch Magnus somewhat off guard because Magnus is taking quite a beating and it's not exactly what he was expecting.
Yeah, no. And Greylock, you know, let's be honest, Greylock is cool. He's calculated, but you know, when push comes to shove, he's a freaking space wolf, you know, lord.
He's as brutal as all the others. He just knows that he can save it until it's actually needed. And
he starts pushing himself. The way Chris Wraight described this is great. He starts pushing himself so hard that he knows his life is forfeit. He knows that he's pushing himself so hard that he's killing himself to do it. And it's just incredible how much control Space Marines, this really shows how the Astartes, how much control over their own power they need to have in order to not kill themselves in combat. And he pushes himself to the brink until Magnus realizes, oh wait, I'm Magnus. I'm a Primarch. Hold on, just a minute. I'm going to kill you now. And it's only because Greylock only lasts so long because Magnus is kind of distracted by the warp powers of Sturmhjart, and Magnus kind of reaches out with the warp and gooshes Sturmhjart in his armor, and then proceeds to kill Greylock.
Yeah. And this is at about the same time that Bjorn the Fell-Handed joins the battle. Unfortunately, it's a little bit too late to save Sturmhjart and Greylock. Mm-hmm. But as Magnus is about to kill Bjorn once and for all, the rest of the fleet arrives from the warp, and Ironhelm jumps from the summit, which is quite an impressive feat. He just jumps down managed to grab hold of both Magnus the Red and Bjorn, and they just tumble down the cliffs.
Yeah, tumbling down
while doing battle.
Yeah, just breaking this, creating a scar on the side of the mountain. It's a pretty epic scene, guys. I don't know. You guys must. Everybody.
It's so over the top,
yeah,
and at the same time, it's sort of reminiscent of Gandalf fighting a certain demonic-looking thing.
The Balrog, what demonic
exactly.
looking? It is a demon. Yeah, it's awesome. It is awesome. So, Bjorn is out for the count. He's no longer appearing in this until the end. Until the conclusion.
System malfunction, rebooting.
Yeah, like his sarcophagus. His sarcophagus is kind of cracked open. He does notice Ironhelm jumping down, and he gets this. What's left of his emaciated face grins when he sees Ironhelm jumping onto the back of Magnus. It is pretty funny. But yeah, they fall down the cliff, and Ironhelm and Magnus start to do battle, even though pretty much every bone in Ironhelm's body is broken at this point.
But this is, again, just like the introduction scenes when the Blood Claws are running around doing crazy stuff. I was like, oops, I broke a few bones. So what? I'm just going to keep fighting.
I'm a goddamn space wolf, whatever. And it's during this battle that I kind of feel bad for Ironhelm, because there really was no need to kill himself for this, because Magnus had no intention of really staying in the material world for long anyways.
But Ironhelm couldn't really know that for sure.
No, you're right.
So, and also with the whole fiasco of sending 11 of the 12 great companies off on a wild goose chase, he has to redeem himself.
Yeah, he does.
He can't just like lay down his axe. Was like, yeah, well, you're beaten, so haha. It's like he has to take it all the way.
Right.
And well, it is Magnus the Red. He can't stop.
Yeah, and Magnus does Magnus lets him know, why he came, and in so doing, letting the audience know why he came to, to stop the space wolves from gaining this, powerful position in the galaxy, etc. And also for revenge, obviously. But Ironhelm gets his last licks in, saying, telling him, well, it doesn't matter. We repelled you. We beat you. We're still here. You're not. Think on that. Before Magnus deals the killing blow and then dissipates into the warp.
And well, with Magnus gone, everything just kind of disintegrates. Space wolves are running around with the Wolfen, and just destroying everything that's left, because no one's coming to save whatever is left on the planet. They're there to die now.
Yeah, the Magnus's fleet departs and gets out of Dodge. I'm not sure at this point, how many of the 1,000 Suns are left, actually. I can only assume that they keep talking about how they brought their entire legion back, what the entire remnants of their legion, but how many? Oh wait, no, they do say all the sorcerers and rubric marines that survived disappeared. I remember that now. All the rubric marines and all the sorcerers disappear pretty much just as the space wolves make planet fall. So they were rescued by the fleet before they departed.
Probably with the help of Magnus.
Yes, probably with the help of Magnus. All right. I mean, wrapping up, they're trying to rebuild. They're going to rebuild. Oh, what's the name of the new wolf lord, or the new great wolf? I missed it.
Wrapping up the final pieces of the book now. Freya survives, but because of what has happened, she's forced to live as a lowly Carl. And if it wasn't for her insane bravery previously, she would have been executed. But, she's rewarded to some extent. And the last we see of her is that she escorts the Dreadnoughts back to their chamber for deactivation. The new Great Wolf declares that they will rebuild and learn from Ironhelm's bravery and short-sightedness. Let's not do that mistake again.
Yeah. His name is Kjarlskar.
Blackwing is still alive and is given the opportunity to rebuild the fleet, and Red Pelt, being the only survivor of his pack, decides to become a lone wolf.
Right. It's not. We get the impression that it's not seen as a negative. They see it as kind of like, oh yeah, that's a thing that happens, and it's kind of his right to follow that path because of what's happened to him, and they don't treat him with disdain for the melancholy of that kind of decision isn't seen as a weakness. It's just seen as deal with those feelings that way.
Yeah, if you read the book Wolves of Fenris by Chris Wraight, it's a collection of short stories. In there is a short story called Kraken, and it's about a lone wolf that is basically just flying around the galaxy trying to find the biggest, meanest, most dangerous kraken he can find to kill it, because the only way he can forgive himself and redeem himself in his own eyes is to kill a gigantic kraken, because that's what he did before he was a space marine. He was a fisherman, a kraken, or a whale hunter, and he needs to kill this gigantic kraken. He finds one. Turns out it's actually a gigantic Tyranid organism, but it's a massive fight. And, well, in the end, he does really feel that he has redeemed himself and can go back to the Fang and become part of Space Wolf society again. So, I guess a lone wolf is somewhere between the Dwarven Slayer bit where you're just trying to die, and probably more of I need to do something so big that I can forgive myself.
Yeah.
And once that's done, we'll see what happens.
Right. That's pretty cool.
So I guess it's somewhat fatalistic, but not really suicidal.
It's not seen as a weakness, for sure.
Oh, not as a weakness, no.
Honor. Great honor. So yeah, that's where we end it. I guess I really enjoyed the book. I know you did.
Yeah, for the second time.
I was glad to see kind of these books. The more I read them, help temper some of the, I don't know, preconceived notions I have about the 40K universe. Or it also helps strengthen some of them, but it gives it more humanity than just the 40K rule books give it.
Yeah, and also these books, they're not cheesy anymore. So it just not sure where I was going with this.
The quality is there. The quality
is really good with these new book, or with the books nowadays. The quality is so good that you really feel that they add to the game instead of just being one-off cheesy, bolter porn stories.
The book doesn't treat you like an idiot or a child. Like, it's not written with a 5th grade level. Like they actually treat you like an adult, and they take it seriously. And you could say what you want about taking something as ridiculous as Space Warriors seriously, but at the same time, people don't want to be treated like children. They want to enjoy their free time that they choose to spend in this world. And they want to feel like they're getting their money's worth. And I certainly feel like this book treats the reader with respect for the most part.
Yeah.
So strongly recommended. If you've been listening to this, it's completely spoiled. But,
sorry.
This book is a good recommendation for anyone. Like, if anybody out there, has the book in their possession, give the book away to someone to read.
Yeah, if you have any kind of reservations about Space Wolves, read this one and you will understand.
Yeah,
because that really is what turned me around from being one of those Space Vikings, blah blah blah, mead, wolf pelts, rar, college brofist, go kind of thing.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot more deep and complex than that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So a lot of my preconceptions of Space Wolves were proven very wrong with this book.
Right. Yeah, no, it's nice. It's real nice. So you want to take a break and come back?
Yes, I would.
All right. We'll see you in a bit.
Dallas-Fort Worth Nerd Night is a community organization that throws tabletop gaming parties for charity. We believe tabletop gamers are uniquely qualified to build better local communities because of the types of relationships built while gaming. If you'd like to learn more about how you can play games and help people with DFW Nerd Night, check out www.dfwnn.org. That's www.dfwnn.org. Thanks.
All right. Well, I guess that's episode 21. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for interacting with us. Thank you for your likes on Facebook. Thank you so much for your wonderful comments on iTunes. Ooh, thank you to Carl and Adam Friend for respectively giving us great advice on how to make ourselves show up in the searches, and for diligently trying to figure out what was wrong. Carl gave us some great advice. Apparently iTunes, when you search, doesn't look in the metadata for anything. It only looks at the title.
That's probably for the same reason that web pages no longer have those keywords at the top of the HTML documents, simply because you can just throw all kinds of crap in there just to try to hit as much as possible, even though it's completely irrelevant.
Right, yeah. Google, like when you do a search, Google now like looks at the text and knows what Google knows what relevant actual narrative text is, as opposed to just words written in a line that are meaningless. So, I think that's true. I think that Carl kind of was like, people try to game the system with the metadata. So we are now Masters of the Forge, Warhammer 40K podcast, Pipe Radio. So that has us showing up on the front page when you search for 40K or Warhammer, and we're much happier with that. Hopefully that'll boost our numbers, which are, let's be honest, are pretty good already. But it would be nice that more people can find us if they're looking for a 40K podcast.
You mean you actually checked the download numbers lately? I haven't done that in months. Yeah, I've just forgotten to do that.
We're doing such good work that it really doesn't occur to us to. We don't, people are. The fact that folks are interacting with us is enough for us to know that we have good numbers. But it's not like it hasn't changed, so that's good. It's like even if some people drop us off, more people pick us up. It's nice.
Yeah, and our Facebook likes are trickling upwards towards those glorious 3 figures.
We're also on Twitter. We're twitting.
Well,
I post some things on Twitter every once in a while. Anything involving our show or whatever. And please try to visit mastersoftheforge.com. It's a nice site. We've got all our rules up there for you to download.
And after this episode, you probably should re-download the rules, because we've added all those extra scenarios and everything that we covered in this show to the one document for the entire Battle of the Fang.
Yes, thank you for reminding them, Snorri. I almost forgot. That's great.
Yeah, it's a little unfortunate that we had to do it like this, but it would also spoil the entire episode that we just did if we released everything at once, and it would be kind of wonky if you had the show but not the supplement after the first episode. So I guess this is just how we had to do it.
Yeah. I guess one last thing. Congratulations to the independent characters for having such a wonderful run. I know, we don't want to dig the grave yet. They still have several months of podcasts to put out, but I know I'm speaking for all of us who were involved with this project, but we're all inspired by the independent characters and the work that they do.
Yeah. And 5 years is a long run for a somewhat niche hobby that we're in. And we're coming up on our first year, and it's been something of an uphill battle all the time. At various stages of uphill, I guess, because sometimes it just flows, and sometimes it's like, oh god, we have to rack our brains to really crank out some content and try to make it not suck.
And I think what really keeps us going is you guys, you folks out there, the mofos, giving us positive feedback and telling us how much the show means to you. And I think that's probably what keeps any of us going who create a thing for other people to consume. Even though, yes, a lot of it is this narcissistic, like me thing, it's also great to hear when that narcissistic, putting yourself out there also is valuable to others, and you can feel a lot better about your narcissism when it actually helps other people or brings other people joy. So thank you guys for what you're doing for us, and thank you guys for supporting the ICs. They're a great bunch of guys, and they really have had a great run, and we want to congratulate them on that.
Yes.
Well, until next time,
play the game the way you want to. This podcast is protected by the Creative Commons Attribution, No Derivatives, Non-Commercial International License. More information about this license and contact information if you have any requests can be found at our blog, mastersoftheforge.com. The music used in this podcast was made by Parad of the duo Sublevel 3. The track is used with his permission.